Waitress found a shot man. She didn't know he was a sheikh. Let me know what you thought of this story by giving it a rating from 0 to 10 and comment what city you're watching from. I really want to know if you liked my story and I want to get to know you better, so subscribe to my channel to support my work. I'm counting on your help. The biting chill of a London dawn seeped through Amelia Rose's thin coat as she walked through the deserted streets of Shoreditch. Her feet ached inside her worn-out shoes, a testament to the 12 uninterrupted hours she had just spent waiting tables at the Levant, the Middle Eastern restaurant where she had worked for 3 years. The smell of spices still clung to her brown hair, mingling with the scent of rain that hung in the damp city air. At 26, Amelia knew this exhaustive routine all too well. Waking at 5 in the morning to work as a cleaner in an office in the city, rushing home to have lunch with her mother and check if she had taken her diabetes medication, then heading to the restaurant where she would stay until the late hours. Every penny earned was carefully divided between her mother's medical bills, her brother Liam's studies, and the rent for the small 2-room flat on the city's outskirts where they lived. That night had been particularly tough. A table of businessmen had demanded constant attention, ordering elaborate dishes and complaining about every detail of the service. Amelia had swallowed every rude comment, forcing a professional smile while thinking about the overdue electricity bill she needed to pay the next day. Her boss, Saeed, a 60-year-old Lebanese man who treated her with a mix of gruffness and paternal protection, had noticed her exhaustion and allowed her to leave an hour early. As she turned the corner onto Redchurch Street, Amelia adjusted her bag strap on her shoulder and quickened her pace. This area, though bustling during the day, transformed into a shadowy labyrinth after midnight. The streetlights flickered intermittently, casting dancing shadows on the walls of the old buildings. The silence was broken only by the distant hum of traffic on the A10 and the echo of her own footsteps on the wet pavement. That's when she saw it. At the entrance of a narrow alley, a human figure lay motionless on the ground. Amelia stopped abruptly, her heart racing. Her first reaction was self-preservation. How many times had her mother warned her about the dangers of empty streets? But something about the scene stopped her from simply walking away. The person on the ground didn't look like an ordinary homeless person. The clothes, even in the dim light, looked elegant, and there was something in the body's posture that suggested real desperation, not just drunkenness. She approached cautiously, her heart hammering in her chest. As she got closer, she could make out the figure better. A tall man, about 30 years old, wearing clothes she recognized immediately. It was a traditional Arab thobe, but made of fine fabric and embroidered with golden threads that shimmered under the faint lamplight. What shocked her most was the dark stain spreading across the light fabric. Blood, a lot of blood. My God, Amelia whispered, running towards him. The man was conscious, but clearly in shock. His green eyes, of an intensity that surprised her even in that dramatic situation, fixed on her with a mixture of relief and desperation. He tried to speak, but only a low groan escaped his parted lips. Amelia knelt beside him, her hands trembling as she assessed his injuries. "Calm down, I'm going to help you," she said, instinctively switching to a soft tone she used with her mother on difficult days. "Where are you hurt?" With precise movements, a result of the 2 years she had studied nursing before dropping out of university for lack of money, Amelia examined the man. The main wound was on the left side of his abdomen, a deep gash that was bleeding profusely. Without hesitation, she tore her own blouse, using the fabric to apply pressure to the wound. "Shukran," the man murmured, his voice weak but filled with gratitude. Amelia's eyes widened. She knew that word. Her grandmother Nadia, of Lebanese origin, had taught her a few Arabic phrases before she died, when Amelia was still a child. Shukran meant thank you. Afwan, she replied hesitantly, remembering the phrase for you're welcome that her grandmother used to use. The man's eyes widened in surprise and something that looked like deep emotion. Even injured and in shock, he watched her with a disturbing intensity, as if trying to memorize every detail of her face. "What's your name?" Amelia asked as she fished her phone from her bag to call an ambulance. "Khalil," he replied, his voice firmer now. "Khalil al-Rashid. I'm Amelia. I'm calling an ambulance, Khalil. You're going to be okay, I promise." While dialing 999, Amelia noticed how the man watched her. There was something in his gaze that went beyond the gratitude of someone being rescued. It was as if he was seeing something in her that she herself didn't know she possessed. His green eyes, though clouded by pain, conveyed a sharp intelligence and a determination that contrasted with his vulnerable condition. "What happened? To you?" she asked after giving the address to the operator. Khalil closed his eyes for a moment, and Amelia feared he was losing consciousness. When he reopened them, there was a shadow of fear and something that seemed like calculation. I can't talk about it," he said, his voice tense. "But you saved me." "Why?" The question caught her off guard. "For the same reason anyone would save another person," she answered simply. "Because it's the right thing to do." Khalil studied her face for a long moment, as if trying to decipher a complex enigma. "Most people would have walked right by." "Then you don't know the right people," Amelia replied, checking the makeshift dressing again. A faint, genuine smile crossed Khalil's lips, completely transforming his expression. For an instant, the pain and fear vanished from his features, replaced by something that made Amelia's heart race in a completely different way. In the distance, the wail of an ambulance siren grew closer. Khalil grabbed Amelia's wrist with surprising strength for an injured man. "Please," he said, urgency tinging his voice, "don't leave me alone at the hospital. I don't have anyone here in London. No one." Amelia hesitated. It was past 2 in the morning, and she had to be up at 5 for work. Her mother would worry if she came home too late. But there was something in Khalil's eyes that touched her deeply. An isolation and vulnerability she recognized, for she felt it in her own skin every day. "All right," she heard herself say, "I'll go with you." The relief that washed over Khalil's face was so intense it was moving. He squeezed her hand lightly, and Amelia felt an electric current run up her arm. It was absurd. She didn't know this man, knew nothing about him beyond his name and that he spoke Arabic. But there was something between them, an instant connection that defied all logic. The ambulance screeched to a halt beside them, and the paramedics quickly got out. Amelia stepped back to give the professionals space, but kept her eyes fixed on Khalil. Even as he was being transferred to the stretcher, he never stopped looking at her, as if he feared she would disappear if he looked away. Throughout the journey to St. Thomas's Hospital, Amelia remained by Khalil's side in the ambulance. He had insisted she get in, and his hand never once let go of hers. The paramedics worked efficiently, setting up an IV and checking his vital signs, but Amelia felt that her presence was what truly kept Khalil conscious and fighting. "Are you a nurse?" one of the paramedics asked, impressed with the dressing she had made. "I studied for 2 years," Amelia replied. "I had to stop." Khalil squeezed her hand tighter, as if that information intrigued him. His eyes never left her face during the entire trip, and Amelia felt mesmerized by his intense focus. There were layers of complexity to this man. She was just beginning to glimpse secrets that turned his green eyes into fascinating enigmas. When they arrived at the hospital, Khalil was immediately taken to surgery. Before the doors closed, he managed to whisper one last thing to Amelia. "Wait for me, please." And she knew, with a certainty that frightened her, that she would wait, no matter how long it took. Amelia remained in the waiting room of St. Thomas's Hospital for over 4 hours, watching the constant flow of doctors, nurses, and anxious relatives moving through the corridors. The characteristic hospital smell, a mixture of disinfectant and anxiety, filled the air, bringing back painful memories of the countless times she had accompanied her mother to appointments and checkups. But this time was different. This time, she was waiting for a complete stranger who, inexplicably, had become important to her in a matter of minutes. Her phone buzzed repeatedly in her bag, messages from Liam asking where she was, followed by missed calls from her mother. Amelia quickly typed a reassuring reply, inventing an excuse about staying late at the restaurant to help with inventory. The lie bothered her, but how could she explain the truth? How could she say she had found an injured man on the street and now couldn't bring herself to leave his side? At 6:30 in the morning, a middle-aged surgeon emerged from the operating theatre, removing his surgical mask as he looked for the patient's relatives. Amelia stood up immediately, her heart pounding. "Mr. Khalil al-Rashid," she asked, approaching. "Yes. Are you his family?" Amelia hesitated. "I'm a friend. How is he?" The doctor studied her for a moment, as if assessing whether he could share information. He was lucky. The wound was deep, but it didn't hit any vital organs. He lost a lot of blood, but he'll make a full recovery. The dressing someone applied on site likely saved his life. "Can I see him?" "He's waking up in recovery now. You can visit him, but only for a few minutes." Amelia followed the doctor through the corridors to a small room where Khalil lay on a gurney, connected to monitors that beeped rhythmically. Even pale and with his hair disheveled, he maintained a magnetic presence that made her pause at the door for a moment. When their eyes met, his face lit up with a smile that completely transformed his expression. "You stayed," he said, his voice still weak but filled with genuine emotion. "I promised I would," Amelia replied, approaching the gurney. "How are you feeling?" "Like I was hit by a truck, but alive, thanks to you." Khalil tried to sit up, wincing in pain. "What time is it?" "Almost 7 in the morning. You were in surgery for hours." Khalil's face tensed, not from physical pain, but from what seemed to be intense worry. "I need to make some calls. There are people who will be worried when they find out that—" He stopped abruptly, as if he had said more than he intended. Amelia noticed the change in his expression, a tension that went beyond post-surgical discomfort. "Khalil, who did this to you?" she asked softly. "Why won't you talk about what happened?" He watched her in silence for a long moment, his green eyes studying every detail of her face as if he were making a difficult decision. "There are things in my life that are complicated," he said finally. "People who would rather see me dead. But you shouldn't worry about that. You've already done more than enough for me." "But I do worry," Amelia admitted, surprising herself with her sincerity. "I don't know why, but I worry." Khalil reached out his hand towards her, and when Amelia took it, she felt that electric current again that had hit her on the street. His fingers were long and elegant, with a gold ring bearing Arabic inscriptions she couldn't decipher. "Amelia," he said, his voice charged with an intensity that made her heart race. "Are you married? Do you have a boyfriend?" The question caught her off guard. No. "Why?" "Because in a few hours, you've become the most important person in my life, and I need to know if I have the right to feel this." The air in the room seemed to grow thicker. Amelia felt her face flush, a mix of surprise and something deep stirring inside her chest. It was crazy. She had known this man for less than a day, and he was saying things no man had ever said to her. "Khalil, you almost died. It could just be—" "No," he interrupted firmly. "It's not post-traumatic shock or gratitude. I know the difference. There's something between us that I've never felt before." Amelia swallowed hard. There was something in those green eyes that mesmerized her, a brutal sincerity that cut through all her defenses. She had always considered herself a practical person, someone who didn't get carried away by foolish romantic notions. But there she was, in front of a man she had just met, feeling as if she had known him for years. "I have to go," she said finally, forcing herself to let go of his hand. "I have work in 2 hours and my family must be worried." "Where do you work?" "2 places. In the morning I clean an office, and in the afternoon and evening I work as a waitress at the Levant." Khalil frowned. 2 jobs. "It's what it takes to survive," Amelia replied, a hint of embarrassment coloring her words. "We're not all privileged." "I didn't mean to offend," he said quickly. "It's just, you seem too young to carry so much weight on your shoulders. I'm 26 and have a family to support. Age doesn't matter when there are bills to pay." Khalil studied her with an expression that mixed admiration and something that looked like sadness. "Will you come back to see me?" Amelia hesitated. Every instinct of self-preservation screamed at her to run away from this situation. Khalil was clearly trouble, wrapped in secrets and dangers she couldn't even imagine. But there was something about him that drew her in like a magnet, an authentic vulnerability behind all that intensity. "I'll try to come after work," she heard herself say. The smile that lit up Khalil's face was so genuine and radiant, it made Amelia's stomach do flips. He brought her hand to his lips and kissed it gently, a gesture that was both elegant and deeply intimate. "Until tonight, then," he murmured. Amelia left the hospital in a state of emotional shock. During the whole journey back home, she couldn't stop thinking about Khalil's green eyes, the way he had held her hand, the intense words he had said to her. It was as if she had entered a parallel dimension where the normal rules of life didn't apply. She arrived home to find her mother, Eleanor, making coffee in the tiny kitchen. At 52, Eleanor maintained a serene beauty, despite the marks left by diabetes and years of struggling to raise her children alone. Her brown eyes, so similar to Amelia's, filled with relief when she saw her walk in. "Thank God, my daughter. I was getting worried." "Sorry, Mum. Said asked me to stay late to organize the stock." Eleanor nodded, but there was something in her eyes that suggested she knew her daughter wasn't telling the whole truth. Liam, 19, emerged from the room he shared with his mother, already dressed in his university uniform for the business administration course he was attending on a scholarship. "Amelia, you look strange," he observed, grabbing a slice of bread. "Did something happen?" "I'm just tired," Amelia lied. "It's going to be a long day." But as she showered and got ready for another day of double shifts, Amelia couldn't get Khalil out of her head. There was something about that man that awakened feelings in her she didn't even know she possessed. The way he looked at her, as if she were precious, unique. No man had ever made her feel that way. Throughout the day, while cleaning offices and then waiting tables at the Levant, Amelia found herself thinking about the moment she would return to the hospital. Said noticed her distraction and made several comments about her lack of focus, but she could barely bring herself to care. It was as if a part of her had stayed in that hospital room, connected to a mysterious man who had entered her life in the most unexpected way possible. When she finally managed to leave the restaurant at 10 at night, Amelia practically ran to the hospital. She found Khalil awake, sitting up in bed and speaking softly on the phone in Arabic. When he saw her enter, he ended the call immediately, his face lighting up. "You came," he said, as if he hadn't been sure she would keep her promise. "I said I would," Amelia replied, approaching. "The bed. How are you feeling?" "1,000 times better now that you're here." They talked for hours. Khalil told her about his childhood in the Emirates, about the beauty of the desert and the complexity of his culture. Amelia talked about her Lebanese grandmother, about the sacrifices she made for her family, about her abandoned dreams. It was a deep and honest exchange that strengthened the inexplicable bond between them. But Amelia noticed that whenever she asked about Khalil's work or what had brought him to the UK, he skillfully changed the subject. There were secrets there, layers of complexity he wasn't ready to reveal, and that intrigued her as much as it frightened her. 3 weeks had passed since that fateful night, and Amelia's life had transformed in ways she could never have imagined. Khalil had been discharged from the hospital after 5 days, but instead of returning to wherever he had come from, he had decided to stay in London. He had rented a luxurious apartment in Mayfair, claiming to have pending business in the city that required his presence for an indefinite period. Amelia knew there was much more to the story than Khalil was revealing. In their meetings, which had become a daily routine, she noticed details that didn't make sense for a simple businessman on a business trip. The expensive clothes, the watches she suspected were worth more than her annual income, the way he spoke on the phone in Arabic with a tone of authority that suggested he was giving important orders. Even more intriguing was the fact that whenever they went out together, she noticed men in suits watching them discreetly from a distance. That Thursday afternoon, Amelia finished her morning shift at the office earlier than usual and decided to stop by Khalil's apartment before heading to the restaurant. He had given her a key the previous week, a gesture that had left her simultaneously touched and nervous. The trust he showed in her was absolute, almost disconcerting. She entered the elegant building using the private elevator that gave direct access to the apartment. The luxury of the place still intimidated her. Marble floors, artworks that looked like originals, furniture that cost more than she earned in several months. But it was the stunning view of the city through the panoramic windows that always took her breath away. She found Khalil in the makeshift office, hunched over his laptop with a tense expression she had learned to recognize. Whenever he spoke with people from his country, that shadow weighed on his shoulders. He was speaking in Arabic, his voice low, but filled with an undeniable authority that made Amelia wonder who exactly he was. La Habibi, lam yakun hadakal qarar sahihan, he said, ending the call when he noticed her at the door. Amelia had learned a few words during their long conversations, but her limited Arabic still prevented her from fully understanding his phone calls. Khalil stood up immediately, closing the laptop with a quick movement that did not go unnoticed by her. "You're here early," he said, approaching with that smile that still made her heart race. "I finished work early." Who was on the phone? For a brief moment, Khalil hesitated, and Amelia saw that look pass through his eyes that she recognized as his calculating face, the mask he wore when deciding how much truth to reveal. "Business," he said finally, "always complicated business." "Khalil," Amelia approached, placing her hands on his chest. "It's been 3 weeks. Don't you think it's time you told me who you really are?" He covered her hands with his, those green eyes studying her with an intensity that made her feel emotionally naked. "Are you afraid of me?" he asked instead of answering. "Should I be?" "I would never hurt you, Amelia. Never. But there are aspects of my life that are dangerous. The less you know, the safer you'll be. But I don't want to be safe." The words escaped her mouth before she could stop them. "I want to be with you, Khalil, completely. And that means knowing the truth, even if it's complicated." Khalil studied her in silence for a long moment. Then, without warning, he pulled her to him and kissed her with an intensity that stole the air from her lungs. It was the first real kiss between them, and Amelia felt as if she were on fire. All 3 weeks of sexual and emotional tension exploded in that moment, and she found herself responding with a passion she didn't know she possessed. When they finally separated, they were both breathless. Khalil rested his forehead on hers, his eyes closed as if fighting an internal battle. "You don't know what you're asking," he murmured. "Then explain it to me." Khalil pulled away, walking to the window where he stood watching the city below. Amelia could see the tension in his shoulders, the internal struggle he was waging with himself. "My family owns businesses worth billions of dollars," he said finally, without turning around. Oil, natural gas, real estate investments, technology. We are one of the most powerful families in the United Arab Emirates. Amelia felt the world spin around her. Billions of dollars. She had imagined he was successful, but this was far beyond what she could process. "And you?" she managed to ask. "What is your position in this family?" "I am the heir. When my father died 2 years ago, I took over leadership of everything." He finally turned to face her. "I am what you would call a sheikh, Amelia. I govern a territory. I have responsibilities for millions of people. I control resources that affect the world economy." The silence that followed was deafening. Amelia felt as if she were trying to process information that didn't fit into her reality. Sheikh, billions of dollars, world economy. The words echoed in her mind without making complete sense. "That's why you're being hunted," she said finally. "My cousin Omar and my stepmother Amira believe they should control the family empire. They have support from factions within our council and from some external groups interested in destabilizing our region. The assassination attempt was orchestrated by them." "My God, Khalil." Amelia sat down heavily in the nearest armchair. "Why didn't you go back? Why did you stay here?" "Because going back would mean entering a war that could cost me my life. And because—" he hesitated, "because I found something here that is more important to me than everything I left behind." His eyes met hers, and Amelia saw a vulnerability so deep it cut her heart like a blade. "I fell in love with you, Amelia, hopelessly, irrevocably in love. You are the first person in my life who loves me for who I am, not for what I own or the power I wield." Amelia felt tears burn her eyes. It was all too much. The revelation about his identity, the declaration of love, the magnitude of the dangers surrounding them. "You lied to me," she said, her voice trembling. "I omitted the truth to protect you. If my enemies knew about you, they already know, don't they?" Amelia stood up, pieces of the puzzle fitting together in her mind. "The men who watch us when we go out, they know about me." Khalil closed his eyes, confirming her fears without words. "Good heavens, Khalil, you put me in danger. You put my family in danger. I have people protecting you 24 hours a day, discreet security, monitoring systems. Your family is safer now than they have ever been, without my knowledge, without me having a choice." Amelia felt caught between anger and despair. "You made decisions about my life without consulting me. Because I knew you would pull away from me. And I can't lose you, Amelia. I simply can't." The raw honesty in his voice made her pause. Khalil approached again, but this time he kept a respectful distance. "I know I made mistakes. I know I should have told you everything from the beginning, but I was afraid you would run away before I could show you who I really am when I'm with you. And who are you when you're with me? Someone who has found peace for the first time in his life. Someone who has discovered that there is something more important than power or wealth. You make me feel human, Amelia. You make me want to be better." Amelia watched him, seeing beyond the shocking revelation to the man she had come to know over these 3 weeks. The man who held her hand when she talked about her family's hardships, who listened with genuine attention to her stories about her Lebanese grandmother, who treated her as if she were the most precious thing in the world. "I need to think," she said finally. "It's a lot, Khalil, a lot to take in, I understand. But while you think, I want you to know one thing." He came close enough to take her hands. "Everything I feel for you is real, every word, every moment. You can question my methods, my honesty, but never question my feelings." Amelia nodded, unable to form words. She left the apartment in a state of shock, her mind racing as she tried to process everything she had discovered. On the street, she noticed for the first time the discreet men Khalil had mentioned, and the reality of her new situation hit her like a punch to the gut. She arrived at the Levant on autopilot, barely able to concentrate on the table she was serving. Said noticed her agitation and approached her during a break. Amelia Habibti, what's going on with you? For weeks you've seemed to be living in another world. It's complicated, Said. The Lebanese man studied her with his experienced eyes. Does it have to do with that man who's been showing up here? The Arab? Amelia's eyes widened. How do you know about him? Dear girl, I have eyes. And I have experience with men of my people. He's not an ordinary businessman, is he? No, Amelia admitted. He's definitely not. 2 weeks of silence passed since Khalil's revelation, and Amelia felt as if she were living on an emotional roller coaster. She had avoided his calls and messages, asking for time to process everything she had discovered. But time, instead of bringing clarity, only intensified the longing and confusion she felt. Khalil had respected her request for space, but his physical absence didn't mean he had completely disappeared from her life. The flowers that arrived daily at her work, always accompanied by small notes written in Arabic and English, constantly reminded her that he was waiting. That Friday morning, Amelia woke up with a strange feeling that something was different. The house was too quiet, and when she went to the kitchen, she found her mother sitting at the table with a worried expression she couldn't hide. "Mum, what happened?" Amelia asked immediately. "Liam didn't come home last night," Eleanor said, her voice trembling. "He always lets us know when he's staying at a friend's house, but this time—" Amelia's blood ran cold. Her mind immediately flew to Khalil and the dangers he had mentioned. With trembling hands, she picked up the phone and dialed the number she had memorized but refused to use for the past 2 weeks. Khalil answered on the first ring, as if he'd been waiting for her call. "Amelia Habibti." "Liam is missing," she interrupted, her voice breaking. "My brother. He didn't come home yesterday." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening for a few seconds that felt like an eternity. "I'm on my way," Khalil said, the tone of command she recognized as his Sheikh's voice taking over completely. "Don't leave the house. Don't open the door for anyone but me." Less than 20 minutes later, Khalil arrived at the apartment accompanied by 2 serious-looking men who remained outside. Amelia opened the door and threw herself into his arms without hesitation, all the barriers she had built over the past weeks crumbling in the face of her fear for Liam. "They took my brother because of me, didn't they?" she asked through her tears. Khalil held her tightly, but Amelia could feel the tension in his muscles. "We'll find out. My men are already investigating." Eleanor watched the scene from the kitchen table, and Amelia realized she needed to make introductions amidst the emotional chaos. "Mum, this is Khalil. Khalil, my mother, Eleanor." Khalil approached the older woman with a respectful bow that touched Amelia's heart, even in that terrible moment. "Mrs. Rose, I promise I will bring Liam back. This is my responsibility." "Do you know who did this?" Eleanor asked, studying Khalil with sharp eyes. "I have a very clear idea," he replied, his voice filled with a cold anger Amelia had never seen before. Khalil's phone rang, and he answered quickly, speaking in Arabic. Amelia watched his expression change from concern to something approaching murderous fury. "They've found Liam," he said after hanging up. "He's all right, but he's being held in a warehouse in Hackney Wick. Omar is in London." "Omar? Your cousin?" "He came personally to force me back. Using your family as a bargaining chip was inevitable." Khalil took Amelia's hands. "He wants to meet me in an hour, alone. In exchange, he'll release Liam." "No," Amelia said immediately. "It's a trap. They'll kill him." "Perhaps, but I can't risk your brother's life." "What if we go together?" Amelia asked, knowing she was about to make the most important decision of her life. "What if I go with you?" "Amelia, no, it's too dangerous. More dangerous than letting you go alone." She turned to her mother. "Mum, I have to go. I have to help bring Liam back." Eleanor stood up and walked over to them, taking both their hands. "I don't know who you are, young man," she said to Khalil, "but I can see you love my daughter, and I can see she loves you too. You go together, bring Liam back, and then you figure out the rest." An hour later, Amelia was sitting next to Khalil in an armored car, heading for the meeting that would define their fates. During the drive, Khalil made several calls, organizing operations she didn't fully understand, but which clearly involved far more people than she had imagined. "How many people work for you?" she asked. "Directly, thousands. Indirectly, hundreds of thousands." He turned to her. "Amelia, when this is over, I will have to return to the Emirates. The situation has become unsustainable, and my people need me, I know. Come with me." The words came out so naturally that Amelia wondered if he had planned this moment, or if it was a spontaneous decision born from the urgency of the situation. "As my wife," he continued, "as my queen, I want you by my side, governing, transforming our society, bringing your strength and compassion to our people. Khalil, I know it's frightening. I know I'm asking you to give up everything you know, but I also know that together we can build something extraordinary. You can study medicine in the best hospitals in the world, open clinics for people in need, make a difference on a scale you never imagined." Before Amelia could respond, they arrived at the warehouse. The place was isolated and sinister, exactly the kind of place she would imagine for a criminal meeting. Khalil checked the gun he was carrying discreetly and looked at her one last time. "Stay in the car until I give the signal." "No way. We go together or we don't go." Khalil sighed, recognizing the determination he had grown to admire in her. "Then we stay together, whatever happens." Inside the warehouse, Liam was tied to a chair in the center of the empty space, but clearly unharmed. Around him, 5 armed men waited. In the back of the warehouse, a man who was clearly related to Khalil, same green eyes, same strong bone structure, watched them with a cruel smile. "Dearest cousin," Omar said in English so Amelia could understand. "You finally decided to show up, and you brought the little local girl who's caused so much trouble. Release the boy, Omar. He has nothing to do with this." "Oh, but he does. You see, dear cousin, I've discovered that the most effective way to control you isn't to threaten you directly. It's to threaten the people you love." Omar gestured towards Amelia. "This woman has become your weakness, and she has also become my strength," Khalil replied, taking a step forward. What happened next was too fast for Amelia to fully process. Armed men emerged from strategic positions around the warehouse, the reinforcements Khalil had organized during the drive. In a matter of minutes, the situation was completely reversed, with Omar and his thugs being detained by Khalil's men. Liam was freed and ran to hug his sister, shaken but unharmed. Khalil approached Omar with an expression that mixed disappointment and determination. "This ends now," he said in Arabic, then repeated in English. "You will return home and accept that I am the rightful leader of our family, or you will face the consequences." Omar laughed bitterly. "You think you can rule our people with a Western woman by your side? They will never accept it. Then I will teach them to accept. I will show them that strength comes from unity, not from blind tradition." During the flight back to the Emirates 3 days later, Amelia watched from the window of the private jet as the landscape gradually turned to desert. Khalil had spent the previous days organizing the transition, ensuring her family was protected and comfortable, and preparing Amelia for the new life that awaited her. Liam had decided to accompany them to study business administration at the university in Dubai, an opportunity that would completely change his future. Eleanor had chosen to remain in the UK, but with the promise of regular visits and all necessary medical care guaranteed. "Scared?" Khalil asked, taking Amelia's hand. "Terrified," she admitted, "but also excited. For the first time in my life, I feel like I can truly make a difference." You have already made all the difference in my life." 6 months later, Amelia Al-Rashid walked through the corridors of the hospital she had founded in Dubai, wearing a lab coat over clothes that mixed Western elegance with traditional Arab touches. She had finished her medical studies in record time, using her previous experience and a steely determination that had impressed even the most rigorous professors. The hospital provided free care to the needy population of several countries in the region and was already considered a model of humanitarian medicine. Amelia had discovered that her experience with financial hardship and her natural empathy made her an extraordinary leader in public health. "Mrs. Al-Rashid," a nurse called, "your husband is waiting in the administration office." Amelia smiled at the title. The wedding had been a ceremony that mixed Arab and British traditions, with Eleanor and Liam present, and had been the social event of the year in the Emirates. At first, there was resistance from some conservative sectors of society, but Amelia's dedication to humanitarian work and her genuine concern for the people won over even the most skeptical. She found Khalil reviewing plans for a new pediatric wing, but he dropped everything when he saw her enter. "How was the surgery?" he asked, hugging her. "Perfect. The little girl will make a full recovery." Amelia nestled into his arms, still marveling at the fact that this powerful man completely melted when he was with her. "And how was your meeting with the council?" "They unanimously approved the project for mobile clinics in rural areas. Your idea will revolutionize healthcare in the region." They kissed gently, and Amelia thought about the incredible journey that had brought them here. From that cold night in London when she found an injured man on the street, to this moment when she was helping to transform lives on a scale she had never dreamed of. "Any regrets?" Khalil asked, as if reading her mind. "None," she replied, without hesitation, "except maybe not meeting you sooner. We met at the right time, when we were both ready to transform our lives." As she watched the golden sunset over Dubai through the hospital window, Amelia reflected on how true love not only united two people, but also transformed them into better versions of themselves. She had found not only a great love, but also her true calling. And Khalil had discovered that true power came from the ability to lift others up, not to control them. Together, they had proven that cultural and social differences, when embraced with love and respect, could create something much stronger and more beautiful than either of them could have built alone. The future stretched before them full of possibilities, and Amelia knew that whatever challenges arose, they would face them side by side as true partners in every aspect of life. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel. I promise to bring you videos every day that will make your life happier. Comment on what you thought of my story with a rating from 0 to 10, and thank you very much.